You think men should not judge women on their body count? Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like past is in the past.
Past is the past?
Yeah.
Huh. Okay.
I don't think we should judge anybody on their body count, but it's also important to note, like, if you don't want to date someone with hundreds of people that they've slept with, that's totally okay too.
Yeah.
Well, that kind of, you're kind of contradicting your prior
You
statement.
don't have to date them, but to judge them and make them into a bad person because they explored their sexuality isn't necessarily right either.
Well, do you think it's judgmental for a man to judge a woman and not want to date her because of her body count?
No, I don't think that's judgmental. I think that's making your own boundaries.
Well, what's the difference between, do you think, okay.
I guess like shaming.
Are you saying
and
Yeah.
then having
Well,
preference.
if I was to say the following statement, I would not date a woman who has a high body count. Is that being judgmental?
No. Calling her like a slur is, though.
I don't think it's judgmental.
I don't know. To some extent, I feel like it is because I don't think that it should necessarily matter.
Mm-hmm. Body count shouldn't matter. Okay.
I don't know.
Okay.
I think it matters, but it's also like self-serving me to say that because
Sure.
You're at 0.
I'm trying to think how I can frame this. Would it be judgmental for me to recommend to other men that they should not date women with a high body count? Is that worse than just my own internal personal preference? Would it be worse for me to say, hey, other men out there, I don't think you should date women with a high body count? Is that a bit
if
more
you think
judgmental?
about it, like, men have really high sex drives, so it's like those men with really high sex drives, your compatible partner is a woman with a really high sex drive.
Well, there's a difference between high sex drive and high body count.
Yes and no. Like, someone with a high sex drive who's not in a relationship will most likely have a high body count.
A woman could have one sexual partner and have a sex drive, high sex drive.
Yeah, but then you're dating and you're in a relationship at that point.
But I'm failing to see the connection between. So if you have a high sex drive as a man,
and you're single.
if you have a high sex drive as a man, you should pair off with a woman with a high body count.
No, not necessarily, but you shouldn't put her down or tell other men not to, because if their sex drives are that high and they're looking for a woman with a high sex drive, what do you expect? You know?
that's an interesting point, Brian. Do you think that if a woman has a low body count, she has a low sex drive?
No.
No?
No,
It doesn't
You don't
correlate.
think?
it doesn't.
I don't
There's
think it
no
correlates.
correlation.
That's fair.
Okay.
I don't.
But the
I just
possibility
wondered.
is there too for the higher sex drive with the higher body count.
Yeah.
Like, it makes sense.
That's true.
I'm
So you
not-
just assume she has more self-control.
I don't think I'm willing to. A woman having a high sex drive is not a compelling enough reason for me to date or pursue a woman with a high body count. So,
Okay.
I also wouldn't date a man with a high body count, so I don't
Okay.
disagree.
but this whole judgmental thing. So, kind of judgmental for a guy to not want to date a woman with a high body count. For you, I think most of you were like, but I think some of you were like, yes, it is judgmental to tell other men to not date women with a high body count.
Yeah, because you're going out of your way to be like,
I'm not being mean about it. I'm just saying, hey, that's probably not a good bet for.
I don't think that's judgmental. What's judgmental would be like, oh, I'm not going to date you because you have a high body count. Like, if you're saying that directly to someone, that's what's judgmental.
Well, I think that this comes down to the shaming language that is often met with men's preferences, standards, and boundaries. Insecure, controlling, you're judgmental. Again, men's preferences, standards, and boundaries are always going to be under attack. Nobody has any issues. Nobody bats an eye when a woman says, I want a guy who's this tall, I want a guy who's this fit, I want a guy whose dick is this big, I want XYZ in a partner, I want a guy who makes this much money, I want a guy who's funny, I want a guy who's charismatic. But when a guy says, I don't want a girl with high body count, I want a woman who's feminine and pleasant and who's gonna bring me peace and all these things, it's always, I want a woman who doesn't go out to bars and clubs and parties, etc. It's always met with some sort of shaming language, contempt, etc.
I can see that.
Women tell other women all kinds of reasons why you shouldn't date other men. Women have all kinds of preferences, standards, and boundaries when it comes to the men that y'all date. Y'all have I'd say women, I think we can all agree, I hope we can agree on this one. I think women, probably for biological reasons, because if you get pregnant, it's evolutionary psychology, because of the higher burden on women when it comes to selecting a mate, selecting a partner. I think women are biologically more likely to be selective. They're more selective and they're more picky when it comes to who they date, who they sleep with. So women have long lists of things that they want in a partner. But when men have a couple things that we care about, oh my God, judgment.
I think it's fine to have preferences as a guy. I think everyone should have like preferences and standards and boundaries.
But why is it judgmental?
I don't think it is personally.
Why is it judgmental?
What? To not.
You said it's kind of, or I think it was so why is it judgmental?
I just feel like it's okay to have boundaries with certain things, but it depends what the topic is.
Yeah, body count.
I feel like in regards to something like body count, there's so many circumstances and stuff that plays into it, and a lot of the logic and the rhetoric behind supporting not wanting a woman with a high body count is kind of just like a lot of misogynistic stuff. Like, I don't know, like the whole key in the lock thing, or like saying that like there's more value in certain things like that. I just feel like the whole perspective behind it is all kind of like wrong.
Well, yeah, and what is a high body count? Is it 5? Is it 20? Is it 100?
Yeah, it's also
It's all
like,
personal.
yeah,
preference,
it's
I
all like
guess.
different to everyone too.
Yeah.
I mean, why is it misogynistic? How is it misogynistic to care about a woman's body count?
I think it's misogynistic to say that like there's a difference between the weight that a woman's body count holds and a man's body count, because I think that at the end of the day, like, sex is sex. If a man is having sex with a woman, it holds the same weight as like a woman having sex with a man.
Well, but okay, this comes back to, and again, like, I don't think it's misogynistic to use an analogy to try to better articulate or communicate a point. I think the reason that it's judged differently is because the ease with which that men and women can get sex. So again, and I'm prepared to have a debate on it, but you guys haven't given me much pushback. So my position is that it's very, very easy for women to get laid. Comparatively speaking, it's hard for men to get laid. If you have arguments to counter that position, I'm prepared to hear them. But if you're just going to allow me to assert the position, and I haven't heard any contrary opinion, if it is the case that it's harder for men to get laid and it's very easy for women to get laid, then it does lend itself to the view that if something is difficult, that's going to be revered to some degree. That's going to be impressive to people, whereas if something's very easy, that's not impressive. So that's why it's like, for men who get laid a lot, which is, it's rather a difficult thing for men to do, that might be viewed as like, wow, you have game. But women need not have game or money or status or even be physically attractive to just like have constant sex. You just need to make yourself available and you can get laid.